Hi class, sorry I'm not getting you this until later in the night, but I just didn't have time after school today because I had to coach. So, I'm going to run through how to do blood typing. I'm going to run through how to do pedigrees. We did that in class today with the other kids, and then I'll tell you what color sheets go with these. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to email me. Otherwise, we will be taking the test on Monday, so if you need help with anything, you need to come in Monday before school or during Ranger time on Monday. Don't forget to come in Monday. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is show you how to do blood typing problems. Blood typing is interesting because it is a codominant trait in humans. Okay, codominant traits mean two things can show up at once. So if you have, for an example, a black and white cat, the colors black and white are codominant. In humans, we only have one trait that's codominant, and that is blood type. And so for humans, blood typing is codominant. Specifically, A and B blood types. So that means if you get an A allele from your mom, a B allele from your dad, your blood type would be A and B. Both A and B would show up. One isn't dominant over the other. Both A and B blood types are dominant over O. So I'm going to run through the blood types. They're on the top of your pink sheet, so I want you to start with your pink one. Okay. For A blood, your phenotype is A. Okay, so for these, the phenotype's always going to be the blood type. You can see at the top of your sheet, they already have that down for you. So you don't need to write this down. A, B, you can have AB blood, or you can have O. And then as far as your genotype goes, there's heterozygous and homozygous for each, just like everything else. Okay, so for A blood, if both parents give you A blood, you are going to get an A allele from each. Now, blood typing is a little bit weird in that they use this superscript to designate the blood type, and they use the letter I to show the dominance. So since A is one of the codominant ones, we're going to use a capital letter I, and then you would do a subscript A, or superscript A. So if one parent gives you an I, A blood type, and the other parent gives you an I, A blood type, okay, you'd be homozygous A blood. Both parents gave you A blood. If one parent gives you an A blood type, and the other parent gives you an O blood type, they show the O blood type with a lowercase I. Okay. This designates that it's recessive, and your phenotype would still be A blood. You'd show like you have A blood because the I is recessive over A. Okay. B blood is very similar to A blood, except for instead of each parent giving you an A, each parent gives you a B. Okay. And it's shown IB, IB. Same with the heterozygous. If one parent gives you B blood and the other parent gives you the A or the O blood allele, you would be IA, IB. Or sorry, IB little I for one B blood type and one O. Okay. Then we have our codominant that I was talking about. AB blood is codominant, so it's neither homozygous nor heterozygous. Both of them are dominant. So you end with one parent giving you A blood and the other parent giving you B blood, and what you end with is a codominant phenotype of A and B. You can see both of them. Also, if you did your lab and couldn't figure it out, people with AB blood are takers. They can get blood from anybody. Okay. And then last, we have the recessive blood type. It's homozygous recessive. And that is if both parents give you O blood, you have 2 lowercase i's as your blood type. And you would have O blood. The only way to get O blood is if both parents give it to you because it's a recessive gene. So if one parent gives you an I and the other one gives you an O, you'd still have A blood, or IAO. IBO is A blood. The only way to get the O blood, true O blood, is for both parents to give it to you. And O is the universal donor, meaning that if you have O blood, you can give blood to anyone. So when you're doing your problems, I'm going to do number 2 right now just because I remember what it is. Okay, one parent is heterozygous A, meaning that they have capital IA, little I. One parent is heterozygous B, capital IB, little I. And when you fill out the square, you find that they will get one child that has the codominance of AB, one child that has B blood, one child that has A blood, and one child that has O blood. Okay, so with that information, you should be able to do the rest of that pink sheet. You do not need to do the last 2, the one about the chickens and one about the cats. You do not do those. Okay. They're just going to get you more confused, and you don't need to know how to do them. For this test or for any test in regular bio. If you decide to take AP Bio next year, which you all should, you will do them then. So don't do the chicken or cat problem. It's the last 2 problems on the sheet. And then we're going to switch to pedigrees. Okay, they look like this. This sheet is green for all of you. Is the stapled packet. If you have 2 greens, some of you have a green and a purple, it's the green one. So the stapled green one. Okay, pedigrees are like family trees, and they are used to track genetic diseases. It's really big. Okay, so here's how they look. In them, girls are always circles. Boys are always squares. Okay. And this here in between them is a mating line, meaning they had kids. Okay. This line going down shows that the ones on the end of that are their children. Here are their kids. And then the up, over, down arrow right here, okay, this line here, those guys would be siblings. So here you have a sister, a brother, mom, and a dad. The colored in circle means that you have the disease. And then how we have to do these is you have to figure out the genotype for each person. So they will always tell you if the disease is recessive or dominant. So let's say this is a recessive disease. We've learned that recessive means that you have to have a lowercase letter. So for the sister, we'll start with the sister. Since she has the disease, the only way to get it is to get 2 lowercase letters. The mom does not have it, so she gets a capital letter. And then she has to have a lowercase letter because this sibling, or this daughter, gets one of her lowercase letters from her mom, one from her dad, meaning that if they don't have a lowercase letter to give, she could not have the disease. So the dad must have a capital A, lowercase a, as well as his genotype. As always, you can use whatever letters you want for this. I'm going to use A's the whole way through. Your brother, the brother, is going to have a capital A, and then you're not going to know what his other letter is. You can put a question mark, you can put big A, little a, or big A, big A. Doesn't matter, you won't get it wrong as long as you have one capital A there. But we don't know what his other letter is because we don't know we'd have to see what his kids are first. So if I told you that this was a recessive disease, and it's a normal disease, so we call it autosomal. That means it's not X-linked or sex-linked. Okay, and we went through all of these, we would get the following. Everyone who has it is a lowercase a, lowercase a. Okay, everyone who doesn't gets a capital A at least. Oops. Okay. And then we'd have to go back and look. Okay, this man had children with two lowercase a's, meaning that his second letter has to be lowercase. Otherwise, his children couldn't get the recessive disease. Even though the mom has two lowercases, she can only give each kid one of her lowercase letters. So the dad has to be uppercase, lowercase. Same is true of this guy here. Okay, he has children that have it, so he has to have it. And then same with this mom. Her mother had it, and so the only gene she could have got, the only allele she could have got from her mom is a lowercase letter. The rest of these guys we don't know. This guy's probably big A, since neither of his kids got the disease, but you don't actually know what they have. Okay, the last thing to know about pedigrees is this type of inheritance. If you look at a pedigree and mostly or all males have it, we call it an X-linked or sex-linked disease. So just like when you do the Punnett squares, when you find out it's an X-linked disease, the first thing you have to do is put X's, oops, I'm going to use a different color. Put in XX's for all the girls and XY's for all the males. Now, since this is, I'm not going to do the rest of it because I'm doing it by hand, but you need to do all of them. It is, if I told you it was recessive, okay, and it's X-linked, that means that any of the boys that have it are going to have a lowercase letter. So remember, for sex-linked, we have to give them another letter as well. Ooh, that is lape. Oops. Okay, so let's say you'd have an X, little a, Y, and any of the boys that have the disease would get that as well. Okay. Any boys that don't have the disease then, since it's recessive, they would have the opposite, oops, which would be a capital letter. So any boys that didn't have it would have the X capital A Y. And then any of the women who have children who have the disease must be X big A, X little a. They have to carry a bad X, but they can't have two bad X's or lowercase x's because otherwise they would have the disease. So boys get their Y's from their dads, their X's from their moms. And so if the boys have a bad X, it has to have come from their mom. Okay. So we know the genotypes of those women. The other two on here, we do not know if they have a big A little a or a big A, and so they would get that question mark. Okay, on the test, we'll make it really easy for you. We'll make it all males. On your practice sheet, there is one X-linked, I believe it is number 5. Okay, it mentions that mostly males get this disease, and so I want you to solve that one as an X-linked. Don't make the mistake of making everything X-linked just because you learned about it. Only do the X's and Y's if it states it's X-linked. Okay, that's all we did today. The first part of the standard prep sheet's really hard with the terminology, so if you have any questions on it or want me to check it over the weekend, feel free to email me a picture, and I will see you for your test on Monday. Please don't forget to come in Monday and make sure your standard prep sheet's done. Hope you have a good weekend.